Good morning, all. Today, we are going to discuss about the last module of this chapter, human reproduction, that is fertilization, implantation, pregnancy, childbirth, and lactation. As soon as the copulation, that means the insemination, the discharge of semen into the vaginal tract of the female is called as insemination. And the sperm gradually will move through the vaginal tract, and then it will reach it will pass through the uterus, and then it will reach the fallopian tube, the ambulatory region. Simultaneously, in the female body, if the ovulation occurs, means the released ova will reach the ambulatory region, and there they will get a chance to meet, and that meeting of ovum with the sperm is called as fertilization. So it is the process of fusion of sperm with ovum and is called as fertilization. But here, there always raises a question, that is, why not all copulations lead to fertilization and pregnancy? Because the fertilization which can take place in the ambulatory region, and the sperm will have to reach there at the same simultaneously, the ovum also will have to reach in the ambulatory region. So these two processes should take place simultaneously, and ovulation occurs in a female only once in a month. So that is why it is said so. All the copulations need not lead into fertilization and as well as the pregnancy. Then when we move on to the next one, that is the process of fertilization is actually taking place in 5 main steps. So the events in that chronological sequence we will discuss. The first one is approach of spermatozoa to the ovum, because sperm is motile, whereas ovum is immotile. The sperm can move and then they will reach by itself, whereas the ova will be moved or will be driven with the help of ciliary movements which lines endometrial lining of the fallopian tube. Then the capacitation. The second point is capacitation. The meaning of capacitation is the ability, the attainment of ability to fertilize the ova for the sperm. All the sperms may not get if they are not passing through the process of capacitation, then the sperm will lose their meeting or the fusion ability to fuse with the egg. So there is a small change occurs within the sperm when it passes through the genital tract. Meanwhile, the capacitation, the ability, they will gain the ability to fertilize the ova. So that process is called as capacitation. And only after the capacitation only the sperm will get a chance to meet with the ova. Then soon after the fertilization, the point of contact, the sperm which is reaching first on the ova, that will get a chance to meet with the ova, and immediately at the point of contact, the sperm head will, the membrane of the sperm head will rupture, and it will release the acrosome. It will burst the acrosome, which is a modified Golgi body, which will contain powerful hydrolytic enzymes. Collectively, we'll call it as acrosin. Acrosin is the enzyme plus hyaluronidase, and these two will be discharged, and the point of contact, which will contain enzymes such as corona penetrating enzyme, zona lysin, and hyaluronidase. So corona penetrating enzyme can dissolve the surrounding follicular cells, which will by the time will appear the radiating appearance. So hence it is called as corona radiator. So these cells will be cemented with the help of a cementing substance. So that cementing substance will be dissolved by the corona penetrating enzyme. And at the same time, the ova itself will be surrounded by a glycoproteinaceous layer. That layer is called as zona pellucida. And this zona pellucida also will be dissolved with the help of acrosome secretions. And the acidity of the ova, acidic nature of the surrounding layer of the ova will be dissolved or will be neutralized by the enzyme hyaluronidase. And these three secretions collectively we will call it as, or will be present within the acrosome. So this acrosome will rupture and they will release that help in the disintegrating the membranes of surrounding the ova. Then the next one, it is activation of ova. So activation of ova means that within the ova itself there is a vigorous reactions taking place. That is, cortical granules within the cytoplasm of the ova will move vigorously, and that will result, or that will collectively will call it as cortical reactions. So the point of contact of the egg, the sperm head and the ova, they will project out in the form of a small conical protuberance that is called as fertilization cone. Through that the sperm head can enter, head as well as the neck also can enter into the ooplasm. So that then immediately after that the nuclear component also will be discharged. That means the nucleus of the sperm, which contain 23 chromosomes, simultaneously the nucleus of the ovum, which also contain 23 chromosomes, will assemble each other and they will meet each other. That process is called as amphimixis. So these all characteristics together, we can call it as the important events that is taking place during fertilization. When we'll move on to the acrosome reaction in detail, already we have mentioned only, that is, during the fertilization, a sperm comes in contact with zona pellucida layer of the ovum and induces the changes in the membrane that block the entry of additional sperms. So I said only one sperm only is getting a chance. So immediately after that, they will form, the ova will form a thick membrane around that one. And that thick membrane will inhibit the further entry of any other sperms into the ovum. So in such a way, they will prevent the polyspermy. So at a time, only one sperm only will get chance to enter into the ovum. Then acrosome reaction, when you are saying, when the sperm is in contact with egg membrane, the acrosome release its secretions. Collectively, we will call it as acrosin and hyaluronidase. And in acrosin itself, there are two components that only corona penetrating enzyme and sonalizing. So this will help the sperm to enter into the cytoplasm of the ova through the zona pellucida and the plasma membrane. And it will prevent, it will help in entry of nucleus, and simultaneously the chromosome component of the sperm and the chromosome component of the egg will, egg or ova will come side by side, and they will immediately will result in the fusion process. So as soon as the amphimixis means the coming together of two nucleus, ooted nucleus as well as the sperm nucleus, and they fuse, and which will induce. So as soon as the entry, the fusion, which will induce the second meiotic division of the secondary oocyte, because we know already ovulation time, it is only the first meiotic division only will be completed. The second meiotic division will be completed at the point where when the sperm head fuses with the egg. So this will induce the completion of second meiosis and the second polar body, which is unequal division. A small compartment of, or a small portion of the cytoplasm will be moved along with the nuclear division, and that will be converted into second polar body, and the remaining major amount of the cytoplasm will be retained along with the ooted. So this ooted completion or the formation of ooted will take place. There only the what we'll say the cortical reactions and taking place. So the completion of second meiosis will take place at the time of fertilization. Soon the nucleus of the sperm and the ovum will fuse together, and that will transform into zygote. So here in this figure it is given The cortical corona radiata cells are also given, and the sperms which are approaching. But in this figure, it is clearly mentioned that is only one sperm only is entering into the cytoplasm, ooplasm. So on other side, we can see the first and second polar body. Okay, second polar body formation. That means the completion of meiotic division. And as soon as the fertilization taken place, slowly the fertilized cell will start, the zygote, we can say the zygote will start dividing. So the division of the zygote successively into 2 cell, 4 cell, then 8 cell, 16 cell. In that way, the nuclear cell division, by mitotic division, it will take place. So that cell division, the mitotic division of the zygote, is called as cleavage. And the products of the cells which are formed as a result of cleavage division, it is called as blastomeres. And gradually, this will transform into 2-celled state, 4-celled, 8-celled, and 16-celled, and like that way. In that 8-celled cell, we will call that particular stage as morula. 8 to 16 celled. Morula, the word meaning is mulberry. That means it is arranged in the form of a mulberry bunch, mulberry fruit bunch like appearance, and which is filled with the whole area. It will be filled with cells only. There is no space inside. It is a solid ball-like structure. And this morula slowly will be passed on to the ampullary region, then into isthmus region. Then by the time the morula again, it will continue the cleavage, and then they will transform into a 2-layered condition. That condition is called as blastocyst in mammalian cells and blastula in lower organisms. The second stage is called as blastula because main distinguishing characteristics are they are 2-layered condition. By the time the cells will rearrange, but the size of the zygote will remain the same till the blastocyst stage. And it will be surrounded by zona pellucida also. So here, the rearrangement of cells, the cell division will continue. It can reach up to, in human embryo means the cells, number of cells will by the time will reach up to 300, maximum of 300, 120 to 300 cells. And there inside that one itself, there will be rearrangement of cells, and it is transformed into a 2-celled hollow spherical structure. That means it will enclose a cavity inside. And the outermost layer of that blastula is called as trophoblast or which is made up of blastomeres, which will transform into trophectoderm. And inside, the group of cells will rearrange to one side, and they'll form an inner cell mass. And then gradually, this trophoblast cells only, or trophectoderm only, will develop into extraembryonic membranes of the fetus. The same way, the inner cell mass will transform into the embryo. And the space inside that, it is called as blastocele. The space inside the blastula or blastocyst is called as blastocele, which is filled with a fluid, blastocelic fluid. And in this 2-layered or blastocyst stage, by the time it will reach within the uterus. So here on the right side, we have marked the different stages. So you can see from the ovary, at the time of ovulation, the ova will be discharged and the ova will be slowly taken in. And in the ambulatory region, the sperm is there, means the fertilization will take place. After the fertilization, the second meiotic division will be completed, and the ova and the second oocyte will, second polar body will be discharged out, and the second oocyte, which is called as oocyte will combine with the nucleus of the sperm, and amphibixis takes place, and then immediately the cleavage will start. It will follow 2-celled, 4-celled, 8-celled, and 16-celled stage. So 8 to 16-celled stage is called as morula. Morula gradually, slowly move. By the time again it will proceed with its cleavage conditions, then that is called as blastula. And blastula stage, it is 2-layered condition, trophectoderm and inner cell mass, encloses a cavity that is called as blastocele. Even in the blastocyst stage, the zona pellucida is in that condition. And in this blastocyst stage only, the implantation is taking place. That means slowly the blastocyst, which reaches the uterus, will reach into the any region of inner lining of the, will attach to the inner lining of the uterus, and there it will get stick on to this. So how it is sticking on to this, already I said, the trophectoderm. The trophectoderm only by the time gradually differentiates into extraembryonic membrane. So normally extraembryonic membrane means it will be 4 layers will be there. That is chorion, allantois, amnion, and yolk sac. Now in this two outermost layers, that is chorion and allantois, will project out in the form of finger-like projections, that is called as chorionic villi. So with the help of this finger-like projections, it will penetrate deep into the endometrial lining of the uterus, and there a few blood cells also will dissolve, and then they will form an interdigitated finger-like establishment, fixing establishment, and that will gradually transform into placenta. So here the placental establishment is, or the placenta of the human embryo is made up of chorioallantois. So it is the villi also is called as chorioallantoic villi. And later, soon after that, the blastocyst also will transform into next stage. That stage is called as gastrula, which is 3-layered embryonal stage. So when you are saying 3-layered, the embryo proper, the embryo itself, embryo inner cell mass will rearrange into 3-layered conditions, and that will gradually differentiated into an outer ectoderm, middle mesoderm, and inner endoderm. And in this stage, and this also encloses a cavity inside that is called as gastrocele, and filled with a fluid that is called as gastrocelic fluid. And in this stage only, soon after that, there will be the rearrangement of all these cells, we can say, and they will transform into the formation, or all these 3 layers will take part in the formation of organs and organ systems. And some of these, at this particular stage, the cells will retain even in till blastocyst stage. The gastrula stage already it will be differentiated, but cells which is present within the blastocyst will have, or will retain, or will have a pluripotent characteristics, or we can say it will act as the stem cells. That is, the cells in the blastocyst, all they are acting as the stem cells. But once it is differentiated into gastrula, means they will lose their pluripotency, and they will take part in the formation of tissues and organs. Here, the ectoderm will differentiate into mainly brain, nervous system, etc. Mesoderm will differentiate into skeleton system, muscular system, etc. Endoderm will mainly visceral organs. They will transform into visceral organs. Some of the organs, there will be mixing up of all the 3 layers, etc. And organogeny takes place, the organ formation. So meanwhile, I have to explain the role of placenta. Here already I said the implantation has taken place, which marks the beginning of pregnancy. And how this implantation? So already by the time it is blastula state only, and with the help of trophectoderm, which is differentiated into 4 extraembryonic layers, that is chorion, allantois, and amnion, and yolk sac. In that, amnion itself will form a cover around the fetus, and they will form, or around the embryo, and they will form amniotic sac, which is filled with a fluid. That fluid is called as amniotic fluid, which will, by the time embryo will gradually, blastocyst will transform into gastrula. Gastrula again takes part in organogeny, and slowly the growth will take place. Developmental growth will take place. But even then, few endodermal cells or mesodermal cells or fetal cells will be floating within the amniotic fluid. So in the early stages nowadays, with the help of a diagnostic technique that is called as amniocentesis, the few cells of the fetal cells which is floating freely within the amniotic fluid can be taken with the help of a syringe, and it can be karyotyped. And if any genetical disorders, that means chromosomal disorders, if they have any mutations in the chromosomes, means we can detect. Along with that, even sex of the fetus also can be detected, but it is banned because it is misused more for female feticide in India. So the disclosure of sex in amniocentesis is banned legally. So here in the placenta, when we are going more detail, here on the right side, it is given the figure of placenta. And here, the placenta is the connection between maternal and fetal tissue, which is developed during the pregnancy. And it is attached to the wall of the uterus, usually by finger-like connections that is called as chorionic villi. Actually, it is not only the chorion, even allantois layer also takes part. At the top or side, then from the chorionic villi, there is a cord-like or a tube-like region that is called as umbilical cord, which connects the placenta to the body of the fetus and the navel region. Okay, so through that connection only, through the placenta, through the umbilical cord only, all the exchanges between the maternal body and the fetal tissues, fetal body is taking place. So the necessary nutrients such as glucose, amino acids, etc. will be taken in through the blood vascular system, blood of the maternal body, and the removal of waste materials. Say simultaneously the supply of antibodies from mother to baby, and oxygen and carbon dioxide, etc. So it is acting as the connecting link between maternal body and the fetal body. So here it is acting, and simultaneously it is not only the connecting link. One more major function is their endocrine function of the placenta. So what do you mean by the endocrine role of the placenta? So soon after the implantation, the placenta will establish, and that will mark by automatically the placenta will act as a dual function. In that, next function is endocrinal function. It will secrete a group of hormones. Mainly, the hormones we'll call it as the human chorionic gonadotrophin, HCG. So, as soon as the establishment of placenta, the HCG will be produced, and this level of HCG marks the beginning of pregnancy. So normally we are using the pregnancy test, the finding of whether in the first urine of the mother in the early stages of pregnancy, the first urine contain HCG means that will establish the presence or positivity of pregnancy. So there are kits are kit available, pregnancy kits are available. On to that that is enzyme linked test only. So into that, if you are pouring the first urine which if it contains HCG, so the presence of HCG means already the placenta is established. So if the placenta to be established means there should be implantation, must be implantation. So the presence of HCG directly indicates the presence of pregnancy in the female. Then along with the HCG, human chorionic gonadotrophin, the human placental lactogen, HPL lactogen, okay, which will induce the secretion of milk within the mother's body. And then simultaneously estrogen and progesterone also will be secreted. So all these hormones, since they can produce these hormones, the placenta is acting as the endocrine gland. Then gradually it will support the fetal growth within the mother's body. Then simultaneously the mother's body also will be induced to produce more and more higher levels of some hormones, mainly estrogen, progesterone, cortisone, that means steroid hormones, then glucosteroids, okay, then prolactin, milk producing hormone, then thyroxine. So because in the pregnancy condition, the basal metabolic rate of mother will be very high, and her requirements also very high, and her reproductive healthy condition also should be high. So automatically the some hormones, mainly estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine and all will be higher than the normal conditions. And towards the end of the pregnancy, her 7th month onwards, her body will start producing another hormone that is called as relaxin. Ovary will produce, okay, it is produced by ovary. Ovary will produce the hormone that is called as relaxin, which will secrete in the later pregnancy. It helps in relaxation of pelvic region, widening of the pelvic region towards the end, and that will help in widening, and as well as it will make easy for the labor, parturition time and all, the widening and all other. It will assist in childbirth. Then all these hormones are essential for the pregnancy and childbirth, etc. Then when we'll move on to this, that is soon after the implantation within the uterus, the organogeny will start, I say. So what do you mean by organogeny? The formation of organs and organ system. So we can see after 1 month of pregnancy, the heart will start developing. The heart will form. And towards the 2nd month, the limbs, small forelimb bud, hind limb bud and all will develop. That will differentiate into limbs and digits. So early embryonal stage, like a bud-like structure only will be there in the 1st month, 2nd month. Towards the end of 2nd month, the limbs will be differentiated into upper arm, lower arm, and the digits, etc., etc. And towards the end of 12th week, that means 1st trimester, 3rd month, towards the end of 3rd month, the major organs, almost all the organs will develop, limbs, external genitalia, organs, organ systems, and it will become a miniature form of fully developed miniature form of human being. So that is 1st trimester, by the end of 1st trimester. Then towards the, during the 5th month, the first movements of the fetus can be felt by the mother. Okay, so it initially towards the 4th or 4.5 month and all, slightly the mother in between, suddenly the mother may feel a twitching movement. Then gradually that movement, the frequency of that movement will increase, and towards the 5th month, 6th month and all often we can feel the fetal movements. The mother can feel the fetal movements. Then towards the end of 24th week, that means 2nd trimester, 6th month, okay, end of 6th month, baby is covered with the fine hair. The body hairs will appear and eyelids will separate. Initially it will be in a closed position only, then there will be a split will appear in between, that will change or that will differentiate upper eyelid and lower eyelid. Then on that eyelids, eyelashes will appear. Then by the time it will be almost developed, fully developed. Even after that, sometimes due to some abnormal conditions, there may be after 6 months also, there can be chances of delivery. So that is preterm pregnancy, preterm childbirth or delivery we can say. But end of the 6th month onwards, it can be protected very well if the child is being kept in an incubator and prenatal care is given, means the child can be survived after 6th month onwards. 5th month and all, it is difficult, but nowadays the latest technique, neonatology development department will deal with from 5th month on. So also very high chances nowadays, chances are there for the survival. But normally we will say 7th month only, even 6th month also nowadays we can revive that baby. Then towards the end, so the end of pregnancy, when you are saying the complete term development or full term development is by the end of 9th month. And after this 9th month, it is at any moment the childbirth can take place. So this is a small description about how the gradual transformation has taken place. Then once the baby completed its full term development, then that is the right time for the parturition or the childbirth. So the impulse will start from the baby itself, fully developed baby. So the baby will induce a complex of neuroendocrine mechanism. The signals for parturition originate from the fully developed fetus and the placenta, which induce the mild uterine contractions, which is called as fetal ejection. So the first attempt is from the fully developed baby only. So there, the baby will produce a neuroendocrine complex signals, and that will result in contraction of the miniature contraction of the uterus. Then this will stimulate the mother's body to secrete more amount of oxytocin. So once this oxytocin start released, then the pain will start originating. That is by the slowly the endometrial layer will loosen. Simultaneously, the rupturing of blood vessels also will take place. And not only that one, that will induce more and more contractions of the smooth muscles of the myometry. So this contractions will induce more contractions of more oxytocin secretion and more further secretions, and then intermittently the pain will appear. So simultaneously the pelvic ligaments also, pelvic region also will widen, the cervical opening also will enlarge. So it will change into 2-finger stage, 3-finger, 4-finger stage, and like that way, gradually the dilation of the cervical genital tract as well as the uterine contractions will reach more and more violent contractions. So the in the duration between the labor pain will decrease and the pain intensity will increase. And the maximum oxytocin peak level, the detachment of the placenta completely from the endometrial, from the inner lining of the uterus will take place, and the baby will be expelled out through the birth canal or cervical canal by the influence of high uh, increase in the oxytocin, and that collectively we'll call it as the parturition. And soon after the parturition, so parturition means expulsion of this one, then the connection between that umbilical cord can be separated and the baby can be separated and maternal body also can be separated. But even then within the uterus, the remnant region, remnant part of the endometrial lining, amniotic sac and the placental remains will be there. That will be within short time, within soon after the parturition, within 5 to 10 minutes, the remnant parts of the uterine lining and all other remaining substance components will be thrown out, and that process is called as afterbirth, or in Malayalam we'll say Maruvella. So here the after parturition, the figure it is given, the umbilical cord will be cut off and the placenta and the remnants of the umbilical cord are expelled from the maternal body after parturition, and it is called as afterbirth. And here, in order to support this, I haven't explained so far. In order to support the, there is a pair of accessory gland that is called as mammary gland, which is a modified sebaceous gland, modified sweat, not sebaceous, sweat gland. And during the pregnancy, it will start proliferating more and more glandular cells that is called as alveolus, which is sac-like structure only. And it acts as the accessory gland which will support the fetal support by providing the milk, and the milk is a complete plant food. It will by feeding that milk, the baby, the development process of the baby will take place. So here the mammary gland itself consists of nearly inside the mammary gland there are many lobes that is called as mammary lobes. And inside the mammary lobes, there are cluster of cells, sac-like cells that is called as alveoli. This alveoli, the group of alveoli will lead into a duct. That duct is called as mammary tubule. Then many mammary tubules, finally they will reach into a major duct that is called as mammary duct. Down I have given the sequence. This mammary duct will open into an bulged space. That space is called as mammary ampulla, and this mammary ampulla will leads into lactiferous duct. So in the which will open out through the nipple by an opening. So through that only the milk will be ejected. And the spaces between the mammary lobe is surrounded by thick layer of fatty tissues, adipose tissues. So here the order of milk secretion when you are saying the mammary alveoli, mammary tubule, mammary duct, then mammary ampulla, then lactiferous duct. So in each mammary gland, nearly 20 lactiferous duct will be there, which will opens out through minute opening through the nipple. So soon after the pregnancy, soon after the delivery, by the influence of oxytocin, the milk will be ejected through the lactiferous duct, and that process is called as, or that is called as lactation. So when the baby sucks the nipple, the milk will be ejected out. So the milk ejecting hormone, when we are saying it is oxytocin, and milk producing hormone when we are saying it is prolactin. So here the milk gland will produce milk which will support the fetal or the development of the baby. And here one more point you have to say, the colostrum. So soon after the childbirth, the first milk which is ejected out from the mammary gland is specified, which is not white in color, it is slightly yellowish in color, and it is thick consistency also, it is slightly thick, and it is called as colostrum. And what is the speciality of colostrum means it contains more amount of antibodies which is produced by the mother through this milk. Through this colostrum, it can be given to the baby. And it is not only that one, it also contains rich nutrients. So it is essential to feed the baby with the colostrum in the early stages of childbirth. Okay, and then within 2 or 3 days the color will change, and the real milk, or we can say the first milk, matured milk will be produced by the baby, mother. And the milk is a completely plant food, and it is very essential for the proper development of the baby. The milk, breast feeding is essential, and it is essential for the healthy development of the baby. So lactation is will continue. It will start from the childbirth, and it will continue nearly approximately 2 or 3 years, as long as the baby sucks the milk. And once the baby start fully depending on the concentrated food, that is by the age of 2 or 3, they will rely on other types of food. By the time, slowly the milk production will decrease and the lactation will come to an end. So it is essential, the same lactation process of the breastfeeding is essential for the proper development of the baby. So with this, we have come into a conclusion of this chapter, and all the best. Prepare very well, and best wishes. Thank you very much.